Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Ask the Experts, and guess who's here? The Queen is here. The Queen is here. She's here. She's sitting right by my side on this throne, and it is an honor and a privilege to have her with me. So Danielle, welcome to Ask the Experts. We're going to give these people what they need, because there's many questions that are brewing, and we want to make sure that we give you something that's comprehensive that'll get you through the night, through the week, through the rest of the year as you transition into a new year. So we want to know who you are, where you're dialing in from. We just want to honor you. But really quickly, before we get started, you know we've been talking about this every single day, and we're almost there. We're almost at capacity, but we have a few spaces left for the Last Chance Weekend, December the 10th through the 12th. If you are considering it, I'm telling you, when you vacillate back and forth and you don't make a decision, you miss out. The early bird gets the worm. So what are you waiting for? Have the conversation with your spouse. Now, I will say this, Danielle. Sometimes, and this has happened many times, people in their fervor and in their passion will go ahead and just move forward without consulting their partner and not having a conversation or not being on the same page. Sit down with your partner. If there are questions that you have about the Last Chance Weekend, if you need clarity, just reach out to us. That's why we have these discovery calls. Just go to couplesacademy.org and set up a discovery call. It's 15 minutes. We can answer all the questions that you have so that we can help you make a decision that is right for your future. But in the meantime, what we want to make sure that you do before we get started is like, share, and subscribe. I don't have it here. It's usually
okay.
here, but
you wanted me to do it?
I mean, I'm saying, can we get started with the show?
Let's get started.
How about we just acknowledge the people?
Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you won't miss a show. Hey, let's acknowledge some people. Scroll all the way to the top. Didi, good morning. Good evening. Oh my God, Raquel. Tint Days, Ayana, Erica, Francisco, hey, Daniel, and Miss Jewel is in the house, Maria, Ariana, and Sean. Kathy, hey, good to see you, hey. Fedlina's with us, Gonzalez is with us, Darwin, Ralph, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
All right. I hope you ask your questions, because if you don't ask your questions, we will cut this thing short. All right, here's the first question. Is going through hysterical bonding after finding out your husband cheated a long time ago a bad thing? I feel like it's bringing us together. It's really discouraging to hear it will end someday. Discouraging to hear that what will end someday? The hysterical bonding. Listen, if the hysterical bonding is bringing you together, then great, right? Sometimes good things bring us together. Sometimes challenges bring us together. I've always said there's a gift in crisis, because the gift that's in crisis, even though we don't like the crisis we're going through, sometimes it forces to the surface issues that should have been dealt with some time ago that were not. And now we're having conversations we haven't had in a long time. We've seen how people after an affair have had an even better relationship, because now they're talking in ways that they didn't before. There's a deeper level of intimacy and vulnerability that they're forced to engage in, because maybe the fact that they didn't have it before the affair is what contributed to the affair. So when you go through this process, you're able to create a firm, healthy foundation for a long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship. And if that bonding is doing that for you, then amen and praise God. But we want to make sure that this coming together isn't just based upon crisis, and now that the crisis is over, we go back into our corners and separate into the normalcy we had before. We want a new relationship. We want a new connection. We want a new foundation.
Right. I mean, I'm wondering, where did you hear that it would come to an end? I think that's the issue, is that it does come to an end, and that's when we begin to drift apart and start looking for something else to fill that space. So we don't want that to come to an end. We want to continue it. It's a reason why we invite our clients to do work days and play days, because we want you to continue to bond, to continue to learn and self-develop. All those things are important for you to continue to feel that passion and that connection, so that you're not looking for it outside. So I don't agree with it ever ending. I don't know where that came from, but it should never end. That's something that you should be doing all the way to the end.
Excellent. I love the way you said that. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and for those who don't know what hysterical binding is by definition, it's, how an affair can actually bring a couple closer together. And that's the crisis that I was talking about, because it's certainly a crisis. And so if something positive can come out of a negative situation, if there is a silver lining, if you will, to something that has compromised the integrity of the relationship, we'll take any good that we can get out of a bad situation as long as it makes us better. So a great question. Thank you for asking. Here's another comment. If the person that cheated went through counseling for a year and a couple worked through the infidelity, shouldn't they be able to talk about the circumstances without getting emotional?
Oh, that's a good question. Everybody's on their own timeline. There should be some expectation for growth, development, and healing after a while, right? Because sometimes this can lag on forever, and that could be an individual issue with the person, right? But what we don't want to do is, force the recovery for the other person, because for them, there are certain subjects that are going to come up that will be triggering, that will cause emotions. I mean, I thought about something just today that happened to me when I was a young child. I'm okay. I'm over it, but I thought about it and it brought me to tears because it's just a sad situation. So I don't want us to misunderstand somebody moving forward and healing and actually having the acceptance and a willingness to forgive and working all those things through for forgetting. We're not designed to forget. The amygdala in our brain is designed to make us remember. And I think what ends up happening eventually is that we begin to change the relationship with the hurt and pain. And so though I may not resent you about it, it still might bring me to tears. It still might cause me to feel a little tinge in my stomach for a while until it doesn't. And I think you want to give your partner the time to heal at their pace.
Good point. Here's another question. It's almost 1 year to the day my husband's affair came to light. I was hurt, but could still be compassionate and loving. I find the past few weeks anger is starting to surface. Why now? He's supporting. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that some people have really a delayed reaction when they're going through a grieving process. I don't know if I was talking to who I was talking to, but I have a couple that I'm working with, and the partner said, it seems like I'm the only one hurting here. I'm the one who's emotional. I'm the one that's crying, and you look like you're good. And the other partner said, well, I just have learned how to pick up the pieces. I dealt with it for a day. I picked up the pieces and I kept going. And it made the other one feel some type of way. But now, 3-4 months later, the person who just picked up the pieces and just kept going now is starting to feel it. Yeah. It's just like now that I've had an opportunity either to rest for a moment or to finally talk it through, all these things are now coming out. Yeah. And what I will say is, when you're forced to deal with an affair with a counselor or a coach, you're forced to bring all of that stuff to the surface. And it's not a happy, feel-good conversation. It could be a painful conversation. But it's like you got to take a couple steps back in order to make a quantum leap forward.
And I want people to understand it's natural, because whenever a crisis breaks out in your life, let's take something simple like you're walking down the street minding your business on a wonderful, beautiful day. You're just taking a stroll, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, okay, a Doberman pincher gets loose and is chasing you. Do you understand? Like, this Doberman means business. It is going to eat you. What do? You hightail it to some high ground. You find a tree, you find a car, anything. You know you're not going to be able to outrun this dog, but your reaction is to get out of there. Pew! Right? That's what happens in any crisis. Now, when you finally get to a safe place, you sitting on top of that car, the owner comes out, thank God. The owner comes out, grabs the dog, the danger is gone. What do? You break down and cry. You literally almost died. A sense of relief. So it's the same thing that happens in infidelity. You are in crisis, okay? And oftentimes in the midst of this crisis in your marriage, you still have other obligations. You're still mommy, you're still daddy. You still are an employer or an employee, right? You have obligations with your family, responsibilities, bills to pay. You know, you have to take care of things. And so oftentimes you're so busy trying to continue to maintain the rest of your life and keep it going that you never really pause to deal with the anguish and the frustration. But the moment that you stop, the moment that the dust settles down, that's when you start to experience it. And so it's called constriction. That's what it's called. And you can move into a place of numbness so that you can continue to cope with life. And then later on, it bubbles to the surface. And that's what happens with the flooding. You start to flood these emotions, anger, resentment, even fear. Anxiety can come later, even though during the process you felt numb. And this happens so often. Certain personality types are more prone to it. But throughout the process of the discovery, you were numb. You could talk about it. You weren't crying. You weren't emotional. And then later on, boom, it hits you. And that's very normal.
Yeah. Here's another question. What's the difference between manipulation / controlling versus compromising? Well, when I think about manipulation and controlling, it is one person's desire to win over the other. Whereas compromising is, to me, we don't like that term because it's a win-lose scenario. So in a win-lose scenario, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. So if you're the one, if you were manipulative, you're trying to control the situation, you try to get it your way. But then if you're willing to compromise, one of the two of you is going to win and the other loses. So maybe you're making the decision to lose so your partner could win, or maybe you're trying to win so your partner can lose. So in that case, it could be the same, or it could be the opposite of compromise. But the thing is, you want to negotiate, right, through things. Negotiation is a win-win scenario. Nobody wants to be controlled or manipulated. Nobody wants to be in a relationship where a spouse has it's my way or the highway approach, because that leaves no room, no voice, no opinion, no anything for the partner. That is a miserable situation to be in. As a grown adult, there's got to be some thought, some feeling, some contribution that they can bring to the relationship that should be respected and honored. Because if not, this is how people say, I've lost myself. I've lost my voice. I don't have an identity anymore. It's been sucked up in this identity that we have as a couple, and I don't even know who I am anymore. I'm going through an identity crisis. And if you truly have a love and respect and an honor for your spouse, you want them to have their voice and it to be a contributor to the overall decision that needs to be made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another question. What do you do when your adult child uses the affair their parent had against the parent you was cheated on because they are fighting with the parent who was betrayed?
Sounds like, what do you do when your adult child is basically throwing the affair in your face when you were the unfaithful partner and you're in an argument? I'm
confused about the last point. But anyway, the child is using the affair against the parent.
They're fighting with the parent who was betrayed. Who
was betrayed, or who was the unfaithful one?
It says betrayed.
I'm not okay, betrayed.
You might need to rewrite that question, Fedlina, so we can give you an appropriate answer.
Yeah. Just come back with that. Let's come back with that. Here's another one. To be completely transparent, we are stronger in many ways. However, I struggle from time to time when I'm triggered by a negative memory of my wife's affair. How do you equip yourself to push through these moments?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds simple, but it's completely up to you and within your control. What I want to acknowledge is that everybody goes through it. These triggering thoughts, they come upon you unexpectedly. That's the thing. One thing you know is that you can expect triggers, but you don't know when to expect them, right? We often throw our hands up in the air and make bad decisions over triggers because we think that they're outside of our control. The way to control triggers is by regularly casting down the thoughts and the imaginations and transmutating those thoughts and imaginations into something pleasant. It is that simple. I want you to think of it like exercise. You know, when you go into the gym and you starting with 50 pounds, it's probably easy. For him, it's easy. Lift those 50 pounds, no big deal, okay? But the more you lift that 50 pounds, the muscle strengthens and you got to lift the weight, okay? So it goes up to 60 and you get stronger and stronger. So much to the point where you go back to lift that 50 pounds and it's like nothing, right? You just lifted that 50 pounds like it was a paperweight or a lightweight. My point is, You have to consistently practice casting down the thoughts in the imagination. No one else can do it but you. So those thoughts, they do come. It wasn't something that you made happen, but what you have to make happen is that transmutating of the thought into something pleasant, and do that regularly. And what will happen is those thoughts will come less frequently. You will change the relationship that you have with those thoughts. You won't feel the same, and you will gain your control back.
That's a comprehensive answer. And here's the challenge. As comprehensive as that answer is, you could buy a book on triggers and you could read it, and it's comprehensive. Sometimes you need somebody to guide you through it. You need accountability. You need a support system, because when you're in your feelings or in your emotions and when you're triggered, you need somebody to talk you off the ledge. You need somebody to coach you through it. And that's what's been most effective, because we talk about how triggers and trust are the two things that people struggle with the most. That's the long journey, if you will. Restoring full trust and managing your triggers. And sometimes you need somebody to help guide you through it. So there's therapists, practitioners who specialize in that can be a support system to you. Husband seems to be uncomfortable and get upset when she brings up the name of the person that he had a 3-month emotional and physical affair with. Does that mean that he has suppressed feelings for her? It could, but not necessarily. It could mean that he has suppressed feelings, or it could not. But, it's just like a person who's had an affair, they get to a place where they just want to move forward. And the thought of it, you're reminding me about it. I just want to move on. Right. Why are you bringing it up? Is it a dig? Are you throwing it in my face? Of course I'm going to feel some type of way. And so I think it's a great question, but I want you to have the right perspective, because you can misinterpret your husband's reaction and think that it's something other than what it actually is. In most cases, the last thing they want to think about or be reminded of is the affair.
Right. And I don't know what kind of therapy you've gone through, but if you've gone through any process and you've dealt with the issue, the details of the affair, every time you bring it up, it's anchoring him back to it. And the unfaithful partner in most cases wants to get as far away from what they did as possible. They don't want to talk about it. It does make them feel uncomfortable. It makes them feel unworthy. It reminds them of all their faults and flaws. That's what you're seeing. And so, it would help us to know if you've had any therapy to support you going through this process, full disclosure and all those things. But at the end of the day, I would ask, what are you hoping to accomplish by continually bringing up the name of this past hurt? Think about that, because at the end of the day, we do things because we're looking for a specific outcome. Are you getting the outcome that you're seeking? That
kind of ties into the next question. When you ask the question, what are you hoping to get out of this? Like, what are you doing it for? Well, I think the answer may be tied to this question. And the question is, I want to move forward with my husband and heal properly after experiencing infidelity. I even pray to God to open my heart completely and forgive him wholeheartedly. Why can't I get over it? And I think one of the things that causes a person to constantly bring up the affair and bring up that person is because they just can't get over it. Why is this taking so long? How do I just blot it out of my mind? I wish it would just go away. This is not fair. This shouldn't have happened to me. I can't get past this pain. And a person who is in pain will then, what will they do? They will project their pain back onto the person who may have initiated the pain in the first place. And that's a part of that cycle that has to be broken to get you to a healed place.
I mean, I want to answer this question for the one who said, why can't I get over it? This is the deal, y'all. Like, we have to make conscious decisions to heal. It's tough talking to somebody who's been through trauma and pain that wasn't their fault. It's tough to give it to them straight up, straight with no chaser. It's tough. But at the end of the day, healing is a choice. Our whole lives, all of our lives, are the sum culmination of choices that we've made. Every bit of it. Our lives, we've made certain choices that put us in certain situations. Okay? You have to decide to get over it. That's the first step, the decision to get over it. And then you get into a process to make that happen. But oftentimes we don't know what to do, so we do nothing. Or we're very comfortable in anger and resentment and bitterness and unforgiveness. Those are very powerful energies that keep you anchored to the pain. There are reasons why we can't get over it. The main reason is that we haven't made the choice, and we haven't understood the choices that we actually have to make. And that's the big piece.
Here's a good question. Me and my wife got married this past August, months before my affair in the worst way came to light. Okay, where you put the comma makes a difference. So I'm not sure if you're saying you got married before the affair or before the affair came to light. I'm not sure. I guess we both still got married. So I guess the affair happened before, you found out before, and still got married. Okay, how do I cope and deal with her trauma and my own? Getting help, getting counseling. That's how you do it. Like, if you don't know how to deal with it on your own, you're not going to get your solution in a 3-minute soundbite answer on a Facebook Live. You need to find someone who can help you both heal. And I thank you for saying how to cope with her trauma and your own. So that implies that both of you are hurting as a result of this, and in different ways. And you need somebody to help you get out of the pit of your pain. And I'm glad that you got married, and obviously something said, you know what, we've experienced this painful thing. We can get through it together. But then the question is how. And when you connect with a practitioner who represents the how, they can help you deal with it. So, I mean, to start the marriage off knowing that this has been a cloud, that has hovered over your relationship, I don't want you to think that the relationship is doomed and it can never get better. No, it can get great. It can get better than what it ever was if you go through a healing process, okay? So that would be my advice for you. Let's see, we have another question. After being cheated on for years, now I developed anxiety attacks. How to deal with that? Once again, I think it's the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of resources. I think you have to, whatever you struggle with, you have to become a student of it. Like, if I struggle with anxiety, I'm going to study everything I can about anxiety. I'm going to read books. I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to watch videos. I'm going to get as much how as I can. Then I'm going to find out somebody who specializes in anxiety to figure out how I can be coached through situations, because you can have all the information but not know how to actually implement and use it. And so once again, guys, a lot of the answers to your questions is get help. Get help. If I ask the question, I'm broke, busted, and disgusted, and I want to be a millionaire. Well, what I can read a bunch of books on it. I could watch a bunch of videos on it, or better yet, I'm going to find somebody who is one. Right? Ask them 1,001 questions. Have them guide me through a process, because they have what I want. They probably have been where I am, and they have what I want. So there's a pathway to get there. And you've got to surround yourself with the solution. Surrounding yourself with people who have the same struggle as you will keep you tied to and anchored in the struggle. Yeah. Finding people who have had the same experience and are now in a better place can guide you through it. And so that's why we take this work so serious. So either we've become students of infidelity and have mastered it, or we've experienced it ourselves and we know how to get you out of it. And that's what Couples Academy is for, to guide you through that process. And that individual healing is critically important, because typically a betrayed spouse struggles with fears, anxieties, insecurities, worthiness issues, trust issues, forgiveness issues, can't get over it, can't get past it. What do I do with my triggers? What do I do with my feelings and emotions? And it takes more than a live stream to get you what you need. All right, let's go to the next question. I'm reading these in real time. Casting down thoughts and imaginations, translate thought into something pleasant. You got it. Hashtag. That's exactly what it is. Ralph says, my therapist gave me a metaphor. Stand at the edge of the woods, not looking back, but towards the future. That's powerful. Yes. Looking towards your future. A lot of times we look into the future through the lenses of our past.
Yes, we do.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
When you're driving a car, you have a rear view mirror. How big is it? It's this big. But then you got the front view. It's 25 times the size of the rear view. That is the proportion that you should be looking at. Sometimes you got to look back just to see how far you've gone, but then you want to look forward to see how far you can ultimately go. So that is a great metaphor that we should embrace. Jules says, control the thought, the trigger, and don't let the thought, the trigger, control you. Brilliant as normal. Brought a book for my husband and I. It was his idea. Now during our couple time, he now does not want to read. I told him I will not force you to read it. When you want to read it, I am ready. There it is.
Or you can go ahead, get that book and curl up next to him and just start reading it out loud. That's what Hassani did, essentially. That's what you did, right? Mm-hmm. When I was uninterested, not trying to be bothered, didn't want to participate whatsoever at all, he decided, well, let me just put this tape on in front of you.
All right, Danielle. We get it, Danielle.
Let me just go ahead, because, she's not willing, but I'm committed. I'm dedicated to this. I'm going to break whatever that spirit is, and I'm going to get in. And that's what he did. And he put the tape in. That was a while ago, right? We're talking tapes. Do people use tapes
VHS
anymore?
tapes.
We put the tape in, and he would put it on and sit next to me, and he wouldn't even bother me, just put it on. And I couldn't help but hear it, right? So that's another approach to take. We're so committed to being in control. We're so committed to what we think is our rights and what we deserve that we miss the big picture, which is the goal. The goal is to get this information into our hearts and our minds so that true transformation can take place, and somebody has to be the one to take the low road and make it happen.
Boom. There it is. It only takes one to initiate the process, and then eventually your spouse will come on board. We are living proof of that, okay? This is what I mean when I say listen to people who have what you want. Not that you're trying to be us. That's not what I'm saying. But if you want a healed, restored relationship, and we have one, let us show you how. Let us walk you through that process. All right, here we go. My husband had a one-night stand back in 2019. He trickled-truthed me for over a year. I was going to the doctors to try and find out what was going on. I tested positive for herpes 2. He finally admitted in March 2021. He was very vague when I asked him questions. There were certain boundaries I asked for. The latest? A couple of months. That lasted a couple of months. Okay. He left on 10/9 and will not speak to me. Just says he can't deal with it anymore. Yeah.
So he was unfaithful to her.
Gave her a sexually transmitted disease, and then he leaves.
And he can't take it
anymore? And he can't take it anymore. I'm sure, first of all, there's a lot to that. I probably can go in 5 different directions. So you have no questions, or I guess you're just looking for us to respond to that. Unfortunately, this does take place where not only did I betray you, and now I'm abandoning you because I can't take it anymore. And when I hear I can't take it anymore, what I'm really hearing is you probably went in on him. You probably were very emotional. You probably kept bringing it up. You probably couldn't get past the pain. And who else to talk to about it than him, the one who initiated it? And he couldn't take it anymore. His feelings got hurt. He couldn't deal with it. And so I often say to people, wait a minute, whoa, you tripping about the fact that she's angry or upset, but look at what you did. Do you know the pain that she's bearing? Do you know what she's going through? Like, you don't want to hear her talk about it. And so she's talking about it 3, 4, 5 times a day. Well, she's probably having internal dialogue 25 times a day. If she shared with you as much as she's thinking about it, it would be 1,000 times worse. So she's carrying this pain that's not physical, it's emotional, but it impacts your physical body. It impacts your mind. It impacts your heart. It impacts your spirit. It impacts every single facet of your being. And what they want is acknowledgement. What they want is understanding. What they want is compassion. What they want is an answer. They want an explanation. They're trying to figure this thing out. And oftentimes, I just can't deal with this. I gotta go. Well, wait a minute. You created the pain. You have a responsibility to help her heal. A responsibility. And when men bounce And when they leave the bedroom to go into another bedroom, when they leave the home to go into another home, you are leaving your post and leaving your home vulnerable. Get back home and fix it. And if you don't know how, contact Couples Academy so that we can help you fix it. So sorry, sis, for what you're going through.
Absolutely.
I know it's painful, but listen, in the meantime, you need to get some individual healing.
Absolutely.
You need healing for you to get through what you're going through.
You're still here. You deserve more. You deserve better. And sometimes people leave your life raggedy with all the fridges on it and that they didn't even cut it clean. So get yourself into some good therapy. If not here, find someone that you can talk to and help you sort out your life. You got to get back grounded and you got to get back to you.
Guys, you've been watching Ask the Experts. I've been here with my wife, Danielle, and myself. We are Couples Academy, the co-founders of Couples Academy. We are marriage coaches, infidelity recovery specialists, Enneagram specialists. We do a number of different things to get you over the hump and to get you unstuck to have the life and the marriage that you ultimately want. Listen, reach out to us. Hope you got something out of tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night, Thursday night, and we'll see you in the morning for another episode. We're in a series about how to break the cycle of infidelity. Hope that has been helpful for you. But listen, if you're searching for an answer, trying to get to this last chance weekend, take a look at this quick video that we have for you. And what we'll do, we'll make sure that you find out all the details about this upcoming last chance weekend so that everything can begin to change in your world. Love you guys. See you on tomorrow. Take care.